Hi, welcome to the webinar, and thanks so much for your interest in learning more about CASA of Mesa County. Before we get started, I want to draw your attention to a couple of handouts. So on our website where you found the link for this webinar, right below it are the handouts. The first one is the welcome letter, and in that letter it also has the dates for the next upcoming training. There's also a document FAQs for frequently asked questions. We have the CASA volunteer job description, and then we have a one sheet called A Month in the Life of a CASA, and it kind of goes over the different activities you'll be doing as a CASA volunteer and how much time those takes. So we're going to go ahead and move on. First, I want to introduce you to the team. My name is Janet Rowland. I'm the director of CASA. Joy Thompson is our program director. And then we have three volunteer coordinators, Jessica Impson, Michelle Kelly, and Rich Parrish. So Jessica, Michelle, and Rich are the people that will really be taking care of you should you decide to be a CASA volunteer. They'll meet with you regularly, talk with you over the phone, help you problem solve issues with your cases. Really great support team. The mission of CASA is just simple: to provide a voice in court for victims of child abuse and neglect. Sometimes we get calls in our office of parents going through a divorce and wanting a CASA for their child, wanting their child to have a voice in court during the divorce proceeding. And although I would agree there are many times when that probably would be very beneficial for a child, we do not do that. We operate under an agreement with the 21st Judicial District, and we only serve cases that we are appointed to by the judge or the magistrate, and these are only cases involving the Department of Human Services and child abuse and neglect. Give you a quick little history. It might be interesting to learn that the first child to be removed from a home for abuse happened nearly 10 years after the first animal cruelty law was enacted. So it's unfortunate that animal cruelty was addressed first, but we are at least thankful that child abuse was also addressed. And in 1977, that's when the first CASA program was established, and it was established by a family court judge in Seattle who felt he needed more information before making decisions about a child's life when they were involved in a child abuse case. Then in 1982, the National CASA Network was formed. Actually, in 96, legislation was passed in Colorado establishing CASA in Colorado, and then in 1997, CASA of Mesa County was formed. So a lot of folks want to know, what do you do as a volunteer? What would you do as a volunteer? And volunteers are assigned to a case, and they work with all of the children or youth that are in that family. They're going to meet with the child or the children once a month, usually a little bit more often. And then they're going to research and gather information, and they're going to do that by talking to foster parents, teachers, counselors, doctors, other family members, and other professionals. They might observe the parent-child interactions, and this would be done during a supervised visit. It wouldn't be a CASA being alone with the parent and a child. All the interactions with the children and the parents are done in a supervised environment, and so there's opportunities for CASAs to observe that as well. And through that process, the CASA volunteer identifies the child's needs, and this is really critical. And it's not to insinuate that the Department of Human Services or the courts or other individuals involved in the case are not interested in the child's needs, but the system is really set up for the parents. The children come into the custody of the Department of Human Services because the parents aren't able to provide a safe home for the child, and the laws dictate that it is the role of the Department of Human Services to help the parents provide a safe environment for the children. So their focus is really on, what do the parents need? Do they need parenting classes? Do they need domestic violence counseling, substance abuse therapy, anger management? Do they need, help finding a job and securing a safe place for the family to live? That's their focus. Now, if the child has extreme behaviors and is acting out, typically those will rise to the surface, and those needs will be met pretty quickly. But in many cases, there's just not even an awareness that the child might have some needs. Typically, we always encourage our CASA volunteers to speak with the foster parent and the teachers pretty regularly, because those are the people that are with those children 24/7, and they know what those kids' needs are. And so through that process, the CASA volunteer is identifying the child's needs and really watching the case as it progresses to make sure that the child's needs are met and not overlooked. And in that process, they're going to report back to the court the status of the case and the well-being of the child. And they'll do this a couple of different ways. They'll submit written reports to the court, and these are to come out prior to every court hearing. And then they'll also attend the court hearings. And sometimes they have additional information to give verbally. Sometimes they don't, and that's fine. And the court hearings happen about every 2 to 3 months. Most of them are review hearings that just monitor the progress of the case, and those are typically pretty short, sometimes 5, less than 10 minutes. And they're usually first thing in the morning or right after lunch. If they have to go to trial, then those can be a little bit longer. But it's not really something that's would prohibit people from holding down a job and being able to attend hearings. In fact, about 60% of our CASA volunteers work full-time. So as long as you have a little bit of flexibility, attending the court hearings really shouldn't be a problem. And then we do ask our CASA volunteers to commit to stay on the case through its duration. And that really is one of the huge benefits of CASAs, because once the case opens, they might have 2 or 3 different case managers as time progresses for various different reasons. They're going to have a case manager that's going to investigate, and then they have a case manager that handles the ongoing work. And, sometimes life happens and case managers get married or move away, have babies, whatever happens, an illness. And so cases can be transferred to new case managers. Sometimes the kids will even move to another foster home or 2. Sometimes they will have to change schools, and so they have different teachers. And the CASA volunteer is that one consistent presence in that child's life. And that is really critical, that 18 months down the road, there might be a whole turnover of all of the professionals involved in that case. But if we have a CASA who can remind them of what happened previously, it is so beneficial for the children. And then I just want to talk briefly about what you do not do as a CASA volunteer. So CASAs do not provide child care for the child. They don't provide transportation to various appointments or visits with the parents. Sometimes you might be asked to do those things, but that's not the role of the CASA. It's also not the role of the CASA to act as a mentor. If that's what interests you in really mentoring a youth, then we would encourage you to go to partners. You can work with the same kids that we serve in that capacity, but you don't mentor the child, so you're not taking them out to ball games and shopping excursions and things like that. You don't attempt to prove guilt or innocence. That's not your role. You're just simply gathering information and sharing it with the judge to make sure he or she understands all the information about that child's life. You don't assist the parents in completing their treatment plan, and sometimes CASAs can be, especially if they tend towards wanting to help people, they can kind of get sucked into that, really wanting to help the parents, but that's not your role. The role of the CASA volunteer is not to assist the parents, it's to advocate for the child. And it's also not the CASA's role to decide what happens in the case. That is solely the role of the judge. You just simply are providing information. So how much time does it take to be a CASA volunteer? On average, about 4 to 6 hours a month. That really depends on the complexity of the case and how many kids are served. So as I mentioned, when you're assigned a case, you serve all the children in that case. So if the case just has one child and it's a 9-month-old, you're probably going to be on the lower end and maybe not even 4 hours a month. But if you have 3 or 4 children in your case and they're all in school, so they're school age and maybe they live in a couple of different foster homes and attend 2 or 3 different schools, you're going to have multiple teachers at multiple schools and multiple foster parents at different locations that you're going to need to talk with. And so that can extend the time that you would spend on the case. Regardless of how many kids are involved in the case, the first month or 2, it's probably going to take you a little bit more time as you meet the child for the first time and all the other individuals involved in the case. Because in most cases, you're going to want to meet those individuals on a face-to-face basis and once you've done that, then you can do your regular check-ins every month to see how things are going. You can do that over the phone or over email, so time isn't as much of an issue after the first couple of months of the case. So what's the process to becoming a CASA? After you've completed this orientation webinar, the next step is to complete an application, and those are available online. If you just go to our website at achildsvoice.org, click on the volunteer button at the top, and there's a link there to complete the application. Part of the application process is for us to conduct background checks, and we do national, state, and local background checks on both criminal history, the child abuse registry, and the sex offender registry. Again, that's both locally, statewide, and nationally. And you're also going to be asked to provide 3 references. You'll do that in the application process, and then we'll send some information to those folks, asking them to just answer a few questions about you. Once we've received the application, someone in our office will contact you to schedule a time for a personal interview. The interview is about 30 to 45 minutes, maybe as long as an hour. Nothing real difficult. It's just a chance for us to get to know you a little bit better and learn about why you're interested in becoming a CASA, and a chance for you to get to know us and have any questions answered that you might still have remaining about what's involved in being a CASA. And then the final piece is to attend training. And training is 30 hours. 15 hours of that training happens in a classroom, and 15 hours happens online. So this really gives a lot more flexibility, especially to individuals who work or have kids, and maybe doing 30 hours in a classroom would be kind of difficult. So how it works is it's actually over a period of 5 weeks. And so the first class is 3 hours, usually a Tuesday or a Thursday from 4 to 7 or 5 to 8. And you'll do your 3 hours. And then between that date and the next week, you'll do 3 hours approximately online. Some people can finish the online portion much more quickly than 3 hours. And that's all interactive. So the same people that are in class with you are together with you in the online training. And there's different case studies to read and comment on and question about. And you do that as a group. Then you come back for the next training, and you have 3 more hours, and again the next week you work on that next step. So it builds on each other. You don't want to wait till the very end and try and do your 15 hours of the online portion. You want to do that with the rest of the class as we progress. And then national standards for CASA are to obtain at least 12 hours of ongoing training per year. And there's a variety of ways that you can do this. We do have volunteer meetings once a month, and those count for 2 hours of training. We bring in usually different guest speakers to talk about different topics. It could range anywhere from attachment to trauma and the impact on children, growth and development, those types of things. We could do trainings on how to write court reports, just a wide variety of topics. And so that's one way to get them. You can also read books. We have on-demand webinars from National CASA that you can watch and count that towards your training. And then sometimes there's other training in the community that's pertinent to the role of a CASA, and we'll share that information with you, and you can attend it if you'd like. There's also a state CASA conference, and there are sometimes scholarships available from that, from Colorado CASA. So lots of ways to get the 12 hours that you need ongoing training per year. So if you're still interested in moving forward to the next step, we hope you will give us a call at 242-4191, or you can send us an email at info@casamc.org. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the webinar and learn more about CASA, and a special thanks for caring about the kids in our community who have been abused and neglected.